Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tone Fernandez here with another episode of Think Like a Millionaire. And today, guys, we're going to talk about a bad habit that a lot of people do, especially in business. And it's comparing yourself to others. We see it in business. Sometimes in our industry, we compare ourselves to other people. In our family, sometimes we compare ourselves to other family members. In our circle of friends, we compare ourselves to our circle of friends. If you're in network marketing, if you have a home-based business, sometimes we compare ourselves to other people within our companies. And I'm going to give you some reason of why you shouldn't compare yourself, 4 reasons why you shouldn't compare yourself on this episode of Think Like a Millionaire. Number one, if you often find yourself lacking, you are setting yourself up for failure. And the reason being is a lot of times we compare ourselves to the superstars. We compare ourselves to the people at the top. And the reason why you shouldn't do that is a few reasons. Number one, their story is different than your story. Number two, their timing is different than your timing. And number three, they possibly paid dues that you haven't paid yet. So if you're constantly comparing yourself to people that are light years ahead of you, then what ends up happening is you constantly feel like a failure and you're setting yourself up for major failure, because what ends up happening is instead of improving every day, you're constantly beating yourself up every day. And then what ends up happening is you just quit or give up, or you say, this is not for me. But if you process it in the right issues and you don't compare yourself to those superstars that are ahead of you, then you can gradually get better and eventually become a superstar yourself. Number two, it's the opposite. If you usually feel superior to others, you're ignoring areas that you can improve. So if you compare yourself and you notice, dang, I'm the man, I'm the woman in this, I'm so awesome, look, and I'm beating him, and her. What ends up happening is you don't improve because you think you've made it, you think you've arrived. And what ends up happening is you start to get stagnant, and that can lead to what happens is you start to go in reverse. You start to go back because everybody's getting ahead of you, and that can lead to destruction in business, because when you think you've made it, you think you've learned everything. So to combat that, what you got to do is get in a room of people who are constantly improving, constantly, increasing even their identity. And then if you do decide, one of the solutions to that is get in a room full of superstars. Don't compare yourself to them, but use them as the bar to say, man, I'm going to keep on improving like they're improving. So that was number two. If you feel superior, then you can stop improving. Number three, comparisons don't take into account differences. Sometimes some people have natural talents. Some people were gifted, some money to get started. Some people have, know somebody in the industry that, got them ahead, a little bit ahead of you. If you compare people, that you don't have the same resources, you have maybe more resources than you, then you're going to constantly beat yourself up. And what ends up happening is you start to quit. You don't start to improve. A lot of times in business, what I've noticed is, sometimes there's people that are ahead of you. And we think, man, how did that guy get ahead? And you start comparing yourself as, man, how did he get this break? And how was he or she able to do that? What ends up happening is if you don't focus on your journey, then you end up, depleting, and you don't end up going forward. So what you got to do is you have to understand that a lot of times business is up and down. Those people that may be ahead of you now, you can be at the same level as them in just a few months, a few years, a few days. And then you can even be ahead of them if you continue on your journey. But if you don't understand some simple principle that these people have some differences, they have some things that you don't have, and you have some things that they don't have. So if you just stick to the journey, then you'll get to your proper area. Number four, the only real measure of success is yours. And here's what I mean. Let's say you were to write children's books, and you said, man, my goal in order for me to be successful is I want to be featured on the newspaper. I want to be featured on the local news, and I want my books in some bookshelves. And then you reach that goal, and all of a sudden you said, man, but look at Dr. Seuss, but look at the author of Harry Potter. They're way more ahead. And what ends up happening is you're comparing their success to your success when you've already reached where you wanted to go. So now you feel like a failure. So you started this journey trying to reach a goal. You reached it, but then you feel like a failure because you're comparing your success to somebody who, may have a different goal of yours, or had a different, area that they wanted to reach in the profession. So that can be catastrophic to yourself, because even though you did what you wanted to do, you start to look around and say, oh, wow, well, they did it, much larger. They did it much bigger. Imagine, going into the NBA and you win 3 championships, right? That was your goal. But then all of a sudden you feel like crap because you're like, man, I didn't win 5. You just accomplished something that most people never accomplished. It was your goal. It's what you wanted to do. But then you're comparing yourself to the wrong people, or you're comparing yourself to people who did 5 championships. and all of a sudden you're diminishing your success, comparing it to other people. So those are 4 things, just to summarize, is you often find yourself lacking if you're comparing yourself to others. Number 2 is, if you start to feel superior when you compare yourself to others, then you won't grow. Number 3, comparisons don't take into account the differences that you have with people in your industry or other people you're comparing yourself to. And then number 4, the only real measure of success is yours. It's what you defined as success, not what other people have done. So I wanted to share that because one of John Maxwell's biggest, when it comes to the laws of leadership and success and the invaluable laws of growth, is the comparison gap. And what he says is sometimes we find ourselves comparing ourselves to everybody, and it ends up being the root cause of our demise. It ends up being the root cause of our frustration. It ends up being the root cause of our setbacks because we're constantly comparing. So find a healthy way to take the people that are successful within your industry or within the realm you want to succeed. Find a healthy way to, pick their brain. Find a healthy way to mimic certain habits that they want to do. But if you're constantly comparing, you're always going to feel down. You're always going to feel like, man, this ain't for me, because there's always somebody ahead of you, which is a good thing. So just wanted to share that. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. If you found value in this, do me a favor, hit the like, share, or comment button. As always, your success is important to me. If you're watching the replay of this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys out there out in the field.